city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu, and I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
That Dre season is here. A real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass. I'm level-headed, so yo, my dudes love when I spaz. And I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game. I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers. I'm knocking my own flame. I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Welcome, Grand Rising, and good morning to all you beautiful folks out there. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and we have a jam-packed show for y'all today. So I just want to welcome you to a magnificent Monday. It's already feeling very magnificent right here in the Black Media Matter Studios because I'm back with my co-host with the most, the 1-2 puncher, Big O. What up, Big O?
Treyana.
Hey.
Bay Holiday.
It's so great to be with you.
What's happening? Happy Monday.
Yes, magnificent Monday to you out there. Happy Monday.
Yeah, you know what? I'm back on the set. It's good to be back in your presence, around your energy. You know what I'm saying? You're looking great here on set.
Thank you,
Listen, for you to bomb, literally. Go ahead. Well, open that up for a second there.
There it is.
You just shouted at someone?
Matt Wells. There we go. You can see Bomb Face Co. You guys can find Bomb Face on Instagram and probably anywhere, but Bomb Face Co.
All right, good stuff. Well, I'm back in the studio. Not so happy to be back in this rainy, cold weather here, but it is what it is. We got a great show lined up for you today. Man, talking about a bunch of different topics. First off, though, we got DeVitta Briscoe. DeVitta actually been on Converge quite a few times over the last few years, but DeVitta's the new gun violence prevention liaison over there at the city of Seattle. So we're going to talk to DeVitta about what that job entails and also how it kind of dovetails into the beloved the gun violence disruption campaign we have going on.
Beloved.
Right.
It's so great to hear different people giving their perspective on this amazing campaign. Can't wait to hear DeVitta come through on the set. It's gonna be great.
Then we got Gusti Clark. That's the property princess. You know,
Yeah.
over at Keller Williams, man, Gusti been moving all this property. You know what I'm saying? Which is a great thing. Every time Gusti comes here, I will say this: Gusti's one of our most prepared guests. So please expect like 35 slides and overlays and everything else. And man, this I am so excited for. The only thing that could top this is if my son, if Omi was here in the studio himself. Charles Hamaker is here from Circling Seattle Sports, right? And so now Circling Seattle Sports, the video version has been here on Converge for about 4 months. My son, Omi, is the executive producer of the show, right? And so we got Charles Hamaker here, who's the host of Circling Seattle Sports, him and Belle Garcia. And let me tell you something. That's the video version, right? It's the last 4 months. These guys are almost 160 episodes in on their podcast, you know, and you know, the one thing at Converge, the one thing, commitment, right? Yeah. That's the word, commitment. When I saw, you know, Omi was like, we got this thing. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Do 50, do 100, then talk to me. And these guys have stayed on it, man. And so real excited today at 4 p.m. Circling Seattle Sports is going to go across all of our platforms. So we're going to talk to Charles Hamaker today.
You know what? I'm so glad that he's right here in the building. I get to see them as we're wrapping up and their team is coming in. It's a great thing because you know what? I think commitment, and I'll also throw in consistency, is key when we're talking about content. So I'm excited that he's here today.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Let's get it going. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Morning Update Show. I want to remind you that right now is the perfect time for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the cold and rainy Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and also KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. Reminding everybody you can listen to the Morning Update Show and all of our shows, and pretty soon even Circling Seattle Sports on our podcast platforms. There's SoundCloud right there, but you'll be able to, you can go to Google, Spotify, iTunes, just search Converge Media Network. Also reminding everybody as well, here for us, WA.gov, here for us, WA.gov. The link is there in the comments. We know it's a lot going on around COVID in our community, and we got a link right there in the comments, here for us, WA.gov. So I'm just putting it in over there. I see them clacking. But this is a resource, Trey, for people who, I mean, you might want to get vaccinated. You might need a booster testing, but also for people who are hesitant. And so a lot of hesitancy information there. Yeah.
Here for us, WA.org is really doing their job. I think, again, shout out to Department of Health. This is something that is culturally responsive communications. And that's something that we really haven't seen during the COVID campaigns and like this pandemic. But they said, look, we really want to connect with Black community. And they've done that.
Yeah, all right, good stuff. Like I said, link there in the comments. I got a few headlines here I want to get to. We got a full show, but I was gone, and big news guy. Got a clip right here. It's about a minute and a half. This one is from, I believe, CBS News, but this is, Biden. I say he kept his word. He made the nomination, nominated his sister. We'll play this one right now.
We want to begin with a historic moment for this country. Today, President Biden nominated 51-year-old Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. And if confirmed, she would be the first Black woman on the nation's highest court. CBS's Jan Crawford joins us now on this historic day. Good evening, Jan.
Good evening, Nora. Judge Jackson's remarks today were personal, like a real glimpse into her life. She began by thanking God for putting her on this path and her parents, who she said have always inspired and supported her.
For too long, our government, our courts haven't looked like America.
Fulfilling a campaign promise, President Biden made history as he introduced the first Black woman ever nominated to the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I do know that one can only come this far by faith. Among my many blessings, and indeed the very first, is the fact that I was born in this great country.
From the beginning, the federal appeals court judge was the frontrunner, with stellar academic and legal credentials and a compelling life story. Growing up in Florida, the daughter of educators in a family of law enforcement, she said in her high school yearbook, "I want to eventually have a judicial appointment." Her resume reads like that of a future justice. Graduating with honors from Harvard and Harvard Law, she clerked on the Supreme Court for Justice Stephen Breyer, the man she's nominated to replace. Another first, Jackson would be the court's first former federal public defender.
I take extra care to communicate with the defendants who come before me in the courtroom.
A mother of 2 daughters, Jackson acknowledged the gravity of her nomination.
I can only hope that my life and career, my love of this country and the Constitution, and my commitment to upholding the rule of law and the sacred principles upon which this great nation was founded will inspire future generations of Americans.
There we go. An inspiration indeed. And, you know, this has been flooding all throughout social media. I saw it all throughout the weekend. Honestly, what I think historic moment for our country. Oh,
yeah, no, definitely. We'll see what the confirmation process looks like. They're already saying that she's not qualified. She has the same qualifications as everybody else. And then, you know, I mean, black women are the most. It's funny. I don't need to tell you this, but I need to say this to the public. Man, black women are the most beat up people in this country. Good God, how can you have all these qualifications and everything else, man? It's like. Anyways, we said we had a fast show today. I think that's a whole 2 hour.
You know, we can stay on it for a minute. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so wanted to talk about a few things that's over in Ukraine, right? I mean, clearly everybody sees that Russia invaded Ukraine. It's just nasty over there. It's a humanitarian crisis that's occurring. You know, hundreds of thousands of people spilling out the borders. We see all kinds of reports over there. You see their president, Zelensky, they said that he wanted a ride out. He said, I don't want to ride. Send more bullets, send more ammunition. And yeah, I mean, they're sticking it to the Russians right now. To be honest with you, quite a few different things going on as far as people leaving and trying to get out the country and getting across borders and everything else. And we see a lot of reports coming in, like African students that are there and everything else. We're not going to get into that today, but we are going to follow it up. But I wanted to point out something here. There's 2 really important things I want to point out. That this war that Russia is raging on Ukraine, unfortunately, it continues now to bring out the worst in people. Now, what happened over the weekend was the AFPAC, the America First PAC. This is the white nationalist PAC. And this was, they're the alternative to CPAC. So they're so far right that like even CPAC was like, nah, we good. But you still have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and quite a few members of Congress who either attended or spoke. But this clip right here shows you that, like, man, there's some white people in America who are so against black folk that they would rather be for Putin than for black folk. Play this clip right here.
And you want to know the secret? To borrow a phrase from a friend of mine, our secret sauce here, it's these young white men. That's what we call the secret ingredient. America and the world has forgotten about them, but not us. You know, they say about America, they say, diversity is our strength, you know. And I look at China and I look at Russia. Can we give a round of applause for Russia? Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, but I take a look around the world.
So you see right there, Trey Holiday, these people would rather give a hand to Russia and be Putin than ever think about equality for black folk in America. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, I definitely get what you're saying. And even without him finishing his statement there, it's clear that where he was going was talking about, you know, this idea, I still believe, of like ethnic cleansing. I mean, he's sitting here talking about China and Russia as examples of what is good, which is really, I think for a lot of people, their understanding is like, oh, well, it's kind of like one race, right? this is something that's very interesting to me because we got to be honest here, man. There's black people all over the world.
Well, the thing is white people in America, and especially poor white people, have a history of voting against their best interests to make sure they can keep a foot on a black man's neck. It's time and again. That's all you got to do is tell people, man, what's up? You want them niggas to be better than you?
Right.
You better vote for this or vote for that. And so, I read a book one time that said the most powerful thing that could occur in America is if poor white people realize that in a lot of cases, they even worse off than poor black people. You go into places like West Virginia, Kentucky, see how them poor white people are living. If poor white people ever realized that they just as bad off, or in some cases worse than black people, and poor people in America came together, you'd actually see a difference. But that's dangerous. That's why I got to keep poor white people so separated. And you tell them anything is better than these Negroes. We're going to get behind Putin and cheer his name. But
this is so interesting that you said this is exactly what the Rainbow Coalition was about. And shout out to our, Fred Hampton, who was like, look, we got to make some change here. Y'all, he was across the aisle, letting Latinos, letting poor whites, everybody know that really our struggle is one and the same. Man, this is why they had to kill that brother, man. It's just shout out to the fact that the Black Panthers were on this message back then, man.
Yeah, and so I wanted to reaffirm here, and this makes me want to go back to my international days. I might need to get on the plane here. This next clip here is if you ever wonder why black media matters, and just objective media matters, to be honest with you. What's happening right now, ladies and gentlemen, is a crisis in the white world and their media. White people, especially some people in media, can't seem to believe that Europeans would be so uncivilized that they're fighting a war. It's hard to believe because, it's like actually two really big wars. They started right. World War I, World War II, and a whole lot of other stuff started right there in Europe. But Europeans, this is their first time in a while seeing white refugees. And their minds can't do the math. And I felt bad for Vlad watching this right here. This is CBS News.
Now with the Russians marching in, it's changed the calculus entirely. Tens of thousands of people have tried to flee the city. There will be many more. People are hiding out in bomb shelters. But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen. So it's partly human nature, but they are not in denial.
So you see right there, he's like, this is Europe, it's civilized. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Iraq. There's no sense. My friend, some of the oldest libraries in the world right there in Iraq. You know what I'm saying? Some of the most amazing scientists. There's a reason it's called alcohol, algebra, alchemy. The majority of the stars in the heavens have Arab names. But you see what I'm saying? When you let these people tell you the news, when you let these people determine who civilization is, they'll have you thinking that Iraqis were uncivilized people. You feel me? And they're such in shock that they can't believe white people that look like them as refugees.
This is very interesting to me because I literally was in Europe studying European culture and identity. And one of the things that came out of that course was the fact that so much of European culture and identity is steeped in war. I mean, they have been waging wars around religion, around power, control for centuries and generations. So the idea that this guy would say this, I mean, to be honest, it's not about civilized people. This is about the fact that war is about power.
Yeah, let me take this from you here. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. And this is why I'm saying, this is why our media is important. So you got to imagine a lot of these, and that clip right there on CBS ain't the only one. There's so many news correspondents that are out there like, I can't believe this is Europe. Europe is so civilized. Europe's what I'm like, man, y'all history is short, dog. I don't know. You feel me? I mean, what they're saying though, is they can't believe they're seeing white refugees in the hundreds of thousands. That's what they can't believe. And, you know, I mean, I will say this, though, too, because, you know, this is an offshoot of what's going on. But, you know, it's clearly, you know, we talked about the other day, standing with the people of Ukraine and what's happening. What Russia is doing is crap. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to have some peace talks, everything else today. And, man, I'm glad they're fighting. You know what I'm saying? They're not laying down. All right. Went a little bit overtime there, but I thought that was important to get in. But before, let me see here. Hey, keep it in here on me. I got something for you, Trey Holiday.
What?
I know it's always good when I bring you back something, right?
I appreciate you.
Okay, what I got for you here. This is the special edition Ebony magazine, right? This is the Beauty and the Brains, the HBCU STEM Queens. And let me tell you, I was in the airport yesterday. I was in the Delta Lounge in Minneapolis, and I saw the actual Ebony. And I was like, oh, my God, I felt like a little kid. It was a stack of them. I'm sorry, I took quite a few. It was a stack of them. And I was like, yo, this is the Ebony. And this is the one that I've been seeing in all the news. And this is a special edition that they did with Olay. And I was like, man, I got to bring this back. And you know what I'm saying? And give this to you.
Thank you. A special edition indeed. And I will definitely go through this and make sure I keep this on my bookshelves. You know, I got 2 black men I'm raising. So for me, they need to be able to see Black brilliance every time they can. Thank you. Oh,
yeah, no, I mean, it's a good feeling. It's a jet. I mean, it's an Ebony magazine. It's like, yo, what an amazing feeling. Like I'm telling you, I was just like a little kid, and then I was taking the papers and smelling it, everything, man. I mean, this brought a lot of joy to my heart today. You know, to see that. So
yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that because you recognize Beauty and Brains over here. I appreciate you.
All day. I mean, clearly on this show, you got the beauty and the brains. I'm just sucking up air. On that note, all right, we're going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, there she is, DeVitta Briscoe, gun violence prevention liaison. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Hey there, it's Trey Holiday. And of course, Besa and I had to take a trip back to Market Street Shoes to grab some items. They always know what to show us. And let me tell you, we both spent quality time to be sure we collected some amazing additions to our wardrobes. They have some of the most unique bags, shoes, and accessories. I mean, the whole shebang. It's always a good time when I get to shop with my girl Besa. Make sure you go check out Market Street Shoes, y'all, and you too can walk out with some dope gear.
When the pandemic hit, it did affect me. As a barber, I had my own personal reasons why I didn't get vaccinated. At the time, I didn't check the actual source. I thought the vaccine was developed too fast, but I was talking to a doctor and he was telling me more about the vaccine and what it can do to protect us and our family. I wanted to get back to that once was, right? I do feel safe knowing that I am vaccinated. I just hope what I'm saying is reaching into people's heads to know that this is the best decision for all of us.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Joined right now on the set by somebody no stranger to us here on Converge, but first time here on the Morning Update Show, DeVitta Briscoe. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, we're happy to have you here. Unfortunately, it's funny that we gonna have to hang out on something else but gun, because every time we talking, you know what I'm saying, it's around this issue of gun violence, and I know everybody is more than one dimensional, so we gonna have to find time another time.
Absolutely.
But here today, really following up on something very serious and near and dear to us here at Converge, and I know you yourself, is this issue of gun violence, this epidemic of gun violence that is really hitting us here in Seattle and across King County. Wanted to bring you on here today to talk to you about two things. Is one, you just recently have an appointment, a cabinet level appointment to the gun violence prevention liaison, and also to talk a little bit about some of the campaigns that are going on in community. I've been saying a lot. DeVitta, please tell us about a little bit about yourself and your new position there in the city of Seattle.
Yeah, I first have to say that I really feel that because of my faith, I'm a God-fearing woman, and I often say I didn't choose this work chose me. And because of my life experience and my personal and professional experience, I believe that I was appointed to this position to really try to make a big change. As the gun violence prevention liaison, my eyes and my ears are to the community. I know that Mayor Harrell writes my checks, but I feel like the community is my boss, and I have to answer to them. So the concerns and the interests of the community is what I work for. I also want to say too that I've taken so many losses, not just me, but our entire community. Most of the young women that I've grown up with and Black fathers that I know are starting to, first they were going to prison, but now they're burying their sons and their daughters. And so I really wanted to make an impact, and I'm glad that I'm being appointed to this position. One of the things I want to say too is Mayor Harrell, he not only believes that gun violence prevention is a priority, but he also believes that community engagement with those who are most impacted is what's going to drive better outcomes. And so being a Black woman that has not only experienced the loss of my son, I buried a partner as well. I also buried my brother to this. And so I believe what my position allows me to do is to support those community-based efforts that are necessary for preventing gun violence in the first place. So investing in making sure that those community-based organizations have the funding that they need, have the coordinated efforts, and are able to continue to interrupt cycles of violence that we're seeing in our communities.
Right, and I read an op-ed that you had in the Facts newspaper, and you said that you're a member of a real exclusive kind of club that nobody wants to be a member of, and like you said, all the different ways that you're impacted in losing a child, losing a partner, and losing your brother. How is that unique life journey and experience? How do you think that enables you or impacts you in your job and in your service to community?
I think one of the biggest things that even before I was appointed to this position, I talked a lot about how Black women were excluded from the conversation. And I talked a lot about how our leadership was, there was not inclusion and there wasn't equity. Most of the contracts were being given to most of the Black men. And then you see most of the white-led organizations that are leading the conversation. But Black women who are on both sides of the gun, which I said we have sons that have been murdered, but we also have sons that have murdered. We are on both sides of those guns, but a lot of times our voices and our experience and our leadership is not being centered. And so one of the things that I have, that I believe is that I also talked about in the Facts newspaper that actually omitted like 9 paragraphs in my op-ed, but I talked a lot about centering those who are most impacted and allowing their leadership to lead us, and that if we want real sustainable efforts, we have to include them. We can't neglect them. I want to take the community along, not have all the answers. This is a complicated issue. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to gun violence.
Right. Well, I have the whole printout, so I read the whole thing. I think that it's interesting, a point that you bring up right there, that what we've heard over the last few years, and whether it's manifested itself here on screen or manifested itself in just conversations people have had behind the scenes with me and Trey Holiday, was that there was a lot of women who did feel one way or another that their voice wasn't heard. They weren't sit there at the table. And I mean, I remember one of the things we were talking about last year when a lot of this stuff was being put together, or 2020, whenever it was, is I'm always like, have you talked to those impacted? Because this issue, and it needs to be, there's lots of advocacy, right? And there's lots of activism, and they should also be there. And then there's also lobbies. But have you talked to those most impacted? And a lot of times it's that victim and the victim's family, or even the perpetrator's family, they're not in those conversations. So I'm glad to hear that that's something that's being uplifted. And from the mayor's office, the last mayor, Mayor Durkin, in her last interview here, when she was on her way out, she said that one of the regrets is that her office wasn't more vocal and more reaching out and everything else. And she had started some reach out before she left office, right? She was talking to people and everything else. But how important do you think it is that from the mayor to the city council and electeds in general, that everybody is on some kind of same page here?
One of the things I also talked about in my op-ed is that how we have to get past the polarized us versus them politics. And really get out of the politics in general and really pursue community-based and enforcement-based solutions that where we're not fighting and competing against one another. Thomas App, in his book Bleeding Out, he said that urban violence is not an argument to be won; it's a solution to be solved. And so I think that in order for us to all get on the same page, it takes us pushing past those us versus them, fear mongering and racist blame shifting on one side, and then the other side saying we're not gonna involve ourselves with law enforcement at all. And so I think that is one of the things is that Mayor Harrell really feels that gun violence prevention is a priority. The fact that he created a cabinet level position and saying that I'm going to put all of my resources into trying to disrupt what we're seeing, and a lot of the communities that have been ignored and deprioritized for so long, they have really, what I said in my op-ed is that they have been fighting not just for year after year, but decades on their own to figure this out on their own. And so now I think uplifting those communities that have been most impacted, but have been deprioritized and ignored. If you see most of the gun violence conversation around the country, who gets invited to the White House is when there's a mass shooting or when there's a school shooting. But we know that Black and brown young men of color are the ones who are dying the most from this epidemic. And so really centering them and saying that they are victims of a social condition, of problems that they didn't even create.
Right. One of the issues as well, because we're seeing gun violence all across the city.
Yeah.
I mean, we're from D3, but then also, D2, even downtown. We got a clip right here. Actually, it was in the early on, Salman. He said a what? Nah, it says downtown murder, unfortunately. Yes.
I can't watch that.
So just to be clear, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay.
It's disturbing. People see that like Jake wasn't dispatched. We don't have enough people to dispatch reporters every time there is a shoot. But this is he caught that because this is a way that we walk every day in this city. We walk through downtown. There's always a lot of stuff right over here, Occidental Park, and this is what we're encountering. And so he's really just sharing, like, this is what I've walked into here today. And I know that you're new on the job and the position is new.
Yeah.
So don't worry, we're not going to put you in the headlock on all the solution. We're going to give you a few months and then come back with a detailed plan.
Yes.
But maybe you can share with us, from a broad view, what are some of the things that you're looking at doing in gun violence disruption?
One of the things, again, is this is there's no one size fits all solution, but definitely supporting the community-based organizations that are already leading that effort. He also wants to ensure that SPD has the staffing levels that they need to respond to quick responses to public safety emergencies and thorough investigations. We're also looking at aligning the city efforts with the Regional Peacekeepers Collective. So we're doing a lot of work with them. He's also put me on a special assignment for school safety for young people who are being robbed at gunpoint. And so we're uplifting and building power with our community-based organizations to provide safety services in and out of school for our schools. And then also at the legislative level, he wants to look at some new policies that we can pursue around firearms and so that we could, because I think the biggest thing is the proliferation of weapons on our street, that the accessibility of weapons, and that our local jurisdictions, we don't have any authority or any power to come up with any policies around how can we eliminate the use of firearms in parks and things like that. So those are some of the things that he's looking at. But I was thinking about how gun sales went up during the pandemic, 70%. You're at home. What do you need a gun for? So the gun shops were open, but the libraries were closed. So, just if you think about it, the accessibility of weapons is one of the biggest issues that we face right now.
Right. And before I let you go here, I know one of the things and how we cross paths this time, we're always crossing paths, but this time is around this Beloved campaign. The Beloved campaign, where we've been talking about here for the last, for the last few weeks, of really using an approach of art and history to disrupt gun violence. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you became involved in that and what maybe you personally or the city is doing.
Yeah, well, we have also, I wrote an op-ed for the Beloved campaign. We're also aligning some of our efforts of what they're doing, bringing in all these artists to, number one, talk about what the problem is, the history, and to talk about what the solutions are. And so I also think it's very powerful that they are uplifting like what this beloved community could look like, if we are all able to approach it as a public health issue, all hands on deck to being able to stop these cycles of violence. This is a preventable issue. This is something we can do something about. Urban gun violence is solvable. And so that's what this campaign is uplifting, is that it's solvable. These deaths do not have to occur, but we need an all hands on deck approach, and everybody supporting these efforts. And it's also uplifting the communities, again, who have been deprioritized and ignored for so long. The young Black and brown men who we are seeing who are dying so rapidly are nameless and faceless. And this is putting a name and a face to those victims and to those families that have suffered for so long. And so I think that's the most powerful thing, is that it's uplifting those communities that have just been erased regarding this issue. All
right. DeVitta, man, thank you so much for taking the time. And maybe like I said, we gonna have to connect on something else but gun violence, but keep it in that track. And maybe like a few months, you come back after you got a few more months on the job, and we can talk more specifically about things as well, because we want, this is important to us here at Converge. I know. This is something we've been talking about for years and years. And so we're here to uplift the messaging and do whatever that we can do in community. Yes. And so I want to say thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, Trey Holiday is joined by, there she is, the property princess, Gusti Clark. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
In the depths of Belize, the travelers come across the waters, harvesting with their hands, learning of resilience rooted deep in the lands, culture thriving like a fire ablaze, sizzling with a pop and a chop, sharing its ways. knowledge simmers and grinds into the hearts and minds, cutting away from the surface stories and colonial lies, boiling it down, breaking its shell as the truth pours out and gets plated collectively with love, spooned into bowls, feeding the soul. Garifuna, alive and strong at Palmetto Grove.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and joining me right now is property princess herself, Gusti Clark. Hi, Gusti.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back. I mean, the last time that we had you on, you actually shared some information about, look, even if you invest now, you know, get something if you don't plan on living in it, but just get something in this market. And that really spoke to me. I took your advice. I bought a condo in December before the market even went up more. Yes. So just thank you for coming on. I know you have always some great tips for our audience out here around real estate. Let's talk a little bit more about who you are before we get into all of that.
Yes, definitely. So I am Gusti Clark. I'm the property princess, and I am with Keller Williams Greater Seattle, and I focus on residential real estate. So that's what I do. And I also do coaching around investments as well.
Yeah. Well, we understand that real estate is a huge investment for most families in America. I mean, unless you really got it like that and you're paying out of pocket, you know, no mortgage necessary and all that. But for many of our families, this is the biggest purchase that they'll make in their lifetime. So tell us about the tips you're here to share with us.
Definitely. So the main thing that I'd love to talk about today is how to leverage real estate to build wealth. So we're always talking about, oh, yes, let's build wealth. But let's talk about the hows to actually do that and how to leverage real estate to get you there.
Yeah, this is important because I think a lot of people see it as one of those huge things. It's like, oh, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to go. But I love the fact that we do have a lot of people coming from our community who are experts in the real estate market that are now sharing those tips and tricks. You have some slides you want to make sure we get into today. Go ahead.
Yes, of course, I have slides. I like to be prepared because we're talking about money, and money is important and we want to get it right. Okay, so one of the first things I always like to think about is, what is our relationship to money? What's our mindset around money? So for example, years ago, back when I lived in San Francisco, I'd be like, okay, I'm working towards paying down all of my credit cards. I'm going to pay them down. I feel so proud of myself. But then 3 weeks later, I see a trip to Mexico, that's on sale. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to treat myself, right? Because I didn't have a plan with my money or what I wanted to do with it. I just thought, okay, well, having a job and making a good income is enough. But clearly that's not enough. Just in the past 2 years alone, we've seen how everything has changed and our jobs could go away or just different things. So we have to be able to live on our investments. So that's what I want to talk about, starting with real estate.
Yeah.
Right. So a couple of things about that is, we keep thinking and hearing about inflation. We go to the grocery store and everything is so much more expensive now. And one of the ways to kind of get around inflation is to focus on real estate and to basically park our money in real estate. So in the recent months, a lot of us have been focused on maybe the stock markets or even cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and Dogecoin and all that good stuff, but then it tanked, right? And it was an easier bar to get into with those kinds of investments. But now it's like, well, those have tanked. Now what are we going to do? So again, focusing on real estate, when you own a piece of property, that's a way to hedge against inflation. Why? Because as everything else increases, so does the value of your property.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people, I think, are just now really getting to understand. And I love how you talked about the difference between investing in real estate versus investing in some things that do crash. I mean, those actually have more of a propensity for you to lose your money on your investment. And for many of our families out here, I mean, that's just not an option.
It's not. And then what are we going to do to have and to fall back on, right? So it's not just, oh, buy a piece of property for yourself to just live in and sit and hold on to, which you can, and our money grows that way. But it's how do we take that money to continue to leverage up over time, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really, you're talking about your assets creating more assets.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that I've heard in the language of money and financial wealth and building that wealth, right? I mean, when you're talking about the level of an investor, that's really at the top tier of where we want to kind of get to when we're talking about our money. You know, you can be an employee, you can be a solopreneur, you can actually be, you know, own a corporation, but to get to that level of investor, that's when, you know, your money is working for you.
That's right. So hard assets is exactly where we want to be. So Trey, can you imagine $2,500 being deposited into your account every single month by just sleeping and waking up and doing what you do every single day? Passive income.
Yeah.
That's what we really want to get to. So when we own a piece of property, there's a lot of different things that we can do with it. So one of the things is buy and hold, meaning buy and hold it for yourself. If after a year or 2 years, you want to take the equity, you can take that and leverage it into another property, like a rental property or whatever the case is. I have a client that I helped buy a piece of property up in Everett, and a year and a half later, there's $100,000 in equity in that home that he can take now and do whatever it is he needs to do with it, whether he wants to take out that money to remodel his own home, add more value, or go buy more property. But again, that's how we're leveraging our money. The other thing that you can do is buy and then rent. So even if you wanted to buy a home but didn't want to live in it, like in a different part of our state or even in a different state altogether, you can buy and rent that out to long-term tenants. You're getting paid every single month by just holding on to this. Later you can sell it, or later you can take that equity and leverage that into the next thing. The third thing that we could also do with it is house hacking. That's my favorite thing. My most recent favorite things is the house hacking idea, in that you buy a piece of property and in the backyard, maybe you add an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit, or like a little tiny home, and you can rent that out for the short-term rentals, or even like the downstairs, you can kind of convert that. So there's a lot of ways that we can make our properties make money for us, not just holding on to it and kind of just paying a mortgage, but there's so many ways to do that. I do talk about that in one of my upcoming workshops, where we spend a lot more time digging into all of those things.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I mean, this is some of the things that we were working on in community, right? Because we had a lot of homeowners in the Central District, Black homeowners in particular, and they're trying to find ways to keep their properties. And so ADUs was a huge topic we've been covering over the last few years, just getting people to understand that, you know, there's a way that you can take some of the equity out and build something that then is providing additional income for you to deal with the increase in property taxes and to deal with, you know, some of the other things that you may need in terms of, you know, fixing up the home and things like that. But there's also these programs throughout the city of Seattle in particular around weatherization and around, hey, maybe we have some funds that are grant funds or, you know, very low interest loans that you can get to actually build these kind of things in your home. So I love hearing that. But we also know that a lot of people are like, well, what about, the Airbnb, how do I get involved in that? And that's another part of house hacking, right?
Oh, yes. Airbnb, those are my favorite, or VRBO. There's so many different types of platforms that can help you do that. And there are companies that can help manage it for you. So here we go to work every single day, and you're probably wondering, okay, I'd like to do that, but how exactly? Well, there's also other people who can help you do that. So we want to leverage people as well. people capital, not just the money parts, but that's how you're able to manage different things, or you can have multiple properties at once while you still do your day job.
Yeah. So you have some workshops where people can learn more about these tips and tricks. I think that's important because I think sometimes it's the accessibility. And, you know, here we are giving a very brief overview over this, but I love that you're saying, no, I actually am out in community, making sure that people understand all of these facets to how they can utilize their wealth in their home, right?
Right. We can dive way deeper into these topics. But another thing that a lot of people may not know is that even as a renter, if you've never owned a home, you can still leverage real estate to help make you money without having to have bought the property. So it's other things that we can talk about. But my point is there's so much opportunity to use real estate to get you to your financial goals. This is everything that I sit down and talk with my clients about, trying to figure out where are you now in terms of where your finances stand, where you want to be, and then we're going to build a bridge to help you get there. So that's what we do.
Well, I appreciate this concept of, you know, not knowing or getting a clearer understanding of what to do with your money, right? And so, you know, for me as a new homeowner, I'm dealing with like, okay, let me look up certain videos because I had to like fix the doors in my, you know, in my unit and all these things. And I'm like, oh, there's nobody to call for that. I have to actually know what I'm doing or have the right connections. I think sometimes, you know, that's another layer of this when you're talking about how to leverage things. It's those connections.
Oh, yes. Connections are a huge deal in helping us manage our assets, right? Whatever that may be, especially with the repairs. And that's definitely something that I help my clients out with. And, you know, thinking about people who do currently own homes and they're possibly considering selling or even taking the equity out, there are programs that can help you to update your home, fix and repair things without having to come out of pocket all the time. That's not the case. There's so many options around this. I get excited talking about it because there's just so much that you can do.
Yeah, this is where I think sometimes they really need an expert like yourself to really guide them through it. Because I know for me, you know, trying to research everything and go through everything personally.
Daunting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It reminds me of all this information that was coming out around COVID, and people were like, well, we don't know where to go. And do I get a test? Do I need to do this? And where do I go? But this is very, very key when we're talking about the real estate market. Again, real estate has been one of the oldest ways that people have built generational wealth. So, Gusti, you know, tell us, is there anything that we're leaving off the table?
So speaking of which, you know, we all look at interest rates these days and it's like, oh, the interest rates are starting to go up. Home prices are starting to go up. But in all technical terms, in the last 10 years, this is the lowest. The last 20 years, this is the lowest interest rates. It used to be around 6% or even more than that. So technically, we're still doing good, even though it's a little bit more than it was right during the pandemic. So still, it's really a good time to try to jump into the real estate game, however you're able to do that. Whether it's with several people that you're combining to go after an investment with, or on your own, whichever the case is, you can still do it. So I think I have a slide somewhere about the current housing market in Seattle, and you'll see that the average is around 760, right up around the 800s for the homes. But what we want to think about is, are there other areas, or like I said, do we want to partner with somebody else to go after these different types of investments and things like that? Still, real estate always gives us the return over time. For all these decades, you can see the returns that it continues to give year after year. So again, it's a great way to park your money. For example, if you happen to have 30,000 and maybe you have 30,000 in your 401k, instead of leaving it there where it could tank like it did 2 years ago at the start of the pandemic, instead of leaving it there, you can dump it into, or park it rather, into real estate, and then it's growing exponentially for you. Like I said, when we start with real estate, it's paying us in return. So if you're receiving the $2,500 a month check, or even $5,000, however much is your choice, but when we're receiving that, now that pays for our daily bills or our expenses. So now our salaries can help us to leverage, you know, we can use that money to leverage in other areas. So that's really the name of the game, is how do we create cash flow? Real estate helps us do that.
You know, I love how you were talking about different locations in other areas. I mean, I think that we are seeing a growth in our transportation systems that actually mean that eventually, when those big systems are up and running, that's going to create additional income, additional property value to your properties. And so even thinking about that, I think is so key here, Gusti. I just always appreciate when you come on because you give us tips and tricks. If people want to reach out to you and get connected, please look right there. let them know how they can reach out to you and come to one of these workshops you're hosting.
Yes. Hey, everybody. So Gusti Clark, the Property Princess, you can reach me at www.gusticlark.com. That's my website. And on my website, you'll see the different links to the workshops. I have one coming up March 15th, and that's the Sellers Workshop, where I'll have tax professionals with us so we can talk through what needs to happen if you were to consider selling, or if you want to take your equity out and start to leverage that into something else. But we get to talk about that and spend time to really kind of dig in and what that's like. If you are interested in being a buyer and buying more properties, we can certainly talk about that too. So on the screen, there's a little QR code, so go ahead and scan, and you can add your information, and we'll get you signed up for the workshop. It's virtual, and it's 6 to 7:30 on March 15th.
Wow, Gusti, always a wealth of knowledge in the real estate game. Thank you so much for being on the Morning Update Show today. It's great to have you in the Black Media Matter studio.
Yes, thank you. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, Gusti was giving us the tips and tricks, and up next, I get to hear a little bit more about this amazing show right here, Circle Sports. Our guy, Chuck, is in the building. Stay tuned after this short break. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Every student who wants to play music should have the opportunity to. Do you know any young people that are excited to start learning music or pick their instrument back up? Seattle Jazz Ed is now enrolling for spring classes. Open to youth across the area, all music programs are offered on a sliding scale, pay-what-you-can model, and free loaner instruments are available for every family. Taught by some of Seattle's finest artists, classes are designed to meet musicians where they are in skill level, with options for beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. And this season, we're opening up ensembles with options for drummers, vocalists, and instrumentalists of all kinds. Registering for March classes can be done online or over the phone, and you can learn more by checking out seattlejazzed.org or calling or texting 206-324-JAZZ.
Hey there, it's Trey Holiday. And of course, Besa and I had to take a trip back to Market Street Shoes to grab some items. They always know what to show us. And let me tell you, we both spent quality time to be sure we collected some amazing additions to our wardrobes. They have some of the most unique bags, shoes, and accessories. I mean, the whole shebang. It's always a good time when I get to shop with my girl Besa. Make sure you go check out Market Street Shoes, y'all, and you too can walk out with some dope gear.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Really excited right now. Joined by a young man after my own heart, Charles Hamaker. He's the host and producer of Circle and Seattle Sports. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, just ever since I've been able to work with Converge, I've just been grateful to have you guys in my corner. I mean, working with your son, it's always confusing talking about big O, right? But just to be able to do this and get this platform, I'm just grateful to have it.
So the difference is that's smart O you're working with. You see what I'm saying? This is just old O here. But let me tell you, the reason why, I was like, I wanted to figure something out with you guys. It's not one, my son works on the show. He's part of the podcast and everything else. But it's your commitment and your consistency. When I was your age, way back when, before electricity and the internet, man, I knew I wanted to be a sports writer, and I wanted to be on radio, man. And I used to do what's called the Black College Sports Report. And I was in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And sometimes it would take 5, 6, 7 hours to drive from Elizabeth City down to Charlotte. And I'd go down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and cover maybe Johnson C. Smith, or you might go to North Carolina A&T or this and that. And man, it was $25. And that didn't cover anything. But in 50 cities across America, I was able to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am Omari Salisbury for the Black College Sports Report. And so when I see you guys, your commitment around this and how hard you guys work, it puts me in a time machine back to when I was your age, burning up and down I-95 and I-40 and all everywhere else, man, in big cities and small towns covering sports. So it's always a breath of fresh air when I see you recording, man. I just want to officially, you've been here for months on the YouTube platform, but I want to officially welcome you today in circling Seattle sports, the Converge Media?
Well, I really appreciate that because, again, like you were saying with months, I mean, we do this, the podcast comes out on Tuesdays. There was a time where my voice was completely gone. I told O and I told Bennett, who also works on the show, I said, we're not missing an episode. I do not miss. I was overseas once, and the recording date was coming. I'm not missing it. I had to record in the hotel. I don't miss days. I hate missing days. And it's just been, just following these sports. I've had a long sports lineage in my family. I've had great parents who have, just been able to help me grow. But I mean, to be here and Converge, just the opportunity is a blessing, and I'm really grateful to have it.
Yeah, you record right there. People can't see it on camera, but right behind you, right there's the news desk. That's where you and Belle Garcia record Circling Seattle Sports. Actually, right after the morning update show every Monday, so you get ready to do that. Quickly tell everybody a little bit about the show.
So, Circling Seattle Sports covers all the professional sports teams here in Seattle, from the Seattle Seahawks to the Seattle Seawolves. Some people might not know we have a pro rugby team here in Seattle. That was always kind of the goal with Circling Seattle Sports in general, not necessarily just the YouTube show here on Converge, but just Circling Seattle Sports. I always wanted to make sure that every pro team here, in the Pacific Northwest, got their proper coverage, whether that was the Seattle Storm, the Lorraine, our pro women's team here, just so that, just like with as much coverage that the Seahawks get, right, that all of those teams got that, fair coverage.
And I'll say this, I'm really, really proud of this. And it ain't even that you're being intentional. It's just who this show is. There is outstanding coverage of female professional sports. Circling Seattle Sports. And I like to say about your show is y'all put paint where it ain't. And that's another Converge thing too, because the Seahawks get a lot of paint and you still do some paint there, but there's so many other pro teams that are out here. They ain't getting no paint. But so guess what? Circling Seattle Sports is on the job, and we see you guys covering so many teams that I didn't even know we had out here, to be honest with you.
That's the goal, right? I mean, with the rain, they were playing down in Tacoma, so it might be a little bit hard to say, there's a pro team. Now they're playing back in Lumen Field here, starting on March 18th. They'll have their games at Lumen Field, former CenturyLink. That's how it'll be in my heart, right? But the Seattle Storm, 4-time champs. It's kind of hard to ignore a team that's racking up the hardware like that, So that was always like a primary goal for me with Circling Seattle Sports, was to make sure that those women were accurately represented, along with the big boys, essentially with the Seahawks and the Mariners here and there.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, you're doing a fantastic job. And I told Chuck, when he came here, they started working on this show, like I said, 4 months ago, right there on the news desk. And I said, man, we're going to just keep shooting in the gym. Keep shooting in the gym. Keep getting better. Keep getting better. Keep getting better. And, man, you've reached a point. This thing is, here we go. So today at 4 o'clock, people can catch Circling Seattle Sports anywhere where they're watching the morning update show right now. But why don't you look in that camera right there and tell people how they can follow Circling Seattle Sports on social media?
So Circling Seattle Sports, it's funny. Well, as you called him, Smart O had the idea to really dive into the social media aspect. So on Instagram, you can follow us at Circling Seattle Sports. Twitter, it's Circling Sports. And on Facebook, Circling Seattle Sports as well. All of those platforms, we post scores, signings, rumors, all of that stuff is there. We post when articles go out about these games. I stay pretty busy. I write articles after every home game here in Seattle. The Sounders lost last night to Nashville, so I was there for that in the terrible rain. But again, Instagram, Circling Seattle Sports, Twitter, Circling Sports, Facebook, Circling Seattle Sports. Obviously, keep you updated with our shows here on Converge when those go live, like you said, today at 4 o'clock. But also the podcast episodes on Tuesday and Fridays. Fridays, when we can get them, we have interviews with Seattle area athletes and athletic figures, whether that be a Jewel Lloyd, with the Storm, or a Dave Sims in the Mariners broadcasting booth.
All right, good stuff. Man, I'm so proud of you, young man. Like, I'm so proud of you and O and Bennett. But you take commitment. The best thing is about you is I see it every day, because you don't only come. It's easy to get. People don't understand. It's easy to get in front of the camera. You come in the camera and then you go and you bounce. This young man right here, as soon as he gets off the camera, spends hours. He clips out everything, puts graphics in there. He writes captions. He does you stay after that. You know what I'm saying? Hard work will always beat talent when talent refuses to work hard. And we continue to work hard around here. You keep up the good work.
I mean, well, working with you, working around you, it'd be a shame to do anything else but work hard, right? I mean, with he's in there, even if he's in Chicago, he's helping. Hey, what if we do this? What if we try that? I mean, it's mostly and I now because Bennett, he's got his own thing, but it's all I know. That's how I was raised. I got a mom from the Philippines who kind of instilled that. My dad as well. It's how we do things, and it's the only way we're going to get better here. So,
All right, good stuff. Well, I appreciate you, and we'll be tuned in today at 4:00. Okay,
I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. See, it must be after 12 because the do not disturbs are off. We're hearing alerts. We're going to take a quick break, and me and Trey Holiday are going to wrap it up in this overtime version of the Morning Update Show.
Every student who wants to play music should have the opportunity to. Do you know any young people that are excited to start learning music or pick their instrument back up? Seattle Jazz Ed is now enrolling for spring classes. Open to youth across the area, all music programs are offered on a sliding scale, pay-what-you-can model, and free loaner instruments are available for every family. Taught by some of Seattle's finest artists, classes are designed to meet musicians where they are in skill level with options for beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. And this season, we're opening up ensembles with options for drummers, vocalists, and instrumentalists of all kinds. Registering for March classes can be done online or over the phone, and you can learn more by checking out seattlejazzed.org or calling or texting 206-324-JAZZ.
Hey there, it's Trey Holiday. And of course, Besa and I had to take a trip back to Market Street Shoes to grab some items. They always know what to show us. And let me tell you, we both spent quality time to be sure we collected some amazing additions to our wardrobes. They have some of the most unique bags, shoes, and accessories. I mean, the whole shebang. It's always a good time when I get to shop with my girl Besa. Make sure you go check out Market Street Shoes, y'all, and you too can walk out with some dope gear.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. We're overtime today, but man, we still got a few good things to get in here. Trey Holiday back here on the set, and we've been talking about Blue. We were fortunate enough. I was gone. You had Joshua Conyers in here last week. They said that the brother with the silky smooth baritone and everything else. You went to go see Blue. We got a clip here. Why don't you set it up?
Oh, I just got to say, it was so fantastic. Honestly, I took one of my best friends and we just really enjoyed ourselves. Here is my recap a little bit and really my excitement. Wow. Okay. I'm just now leaving Blue, and I got to say, Tazewell Thompson put his everything into this opera right here at McCall Hall. What an amazing show all around. And when you talk about the empathy that the audience could feel, the compassion for the story, for every character, particularly the mother and the father of the son who was slain. I mean, when they talk about showing sisterhood, brotherhood, Black culture, Black family, Black church even, honestly, it was phenomenal. And I know I was hearing a bunch of sniffles in the audience because it is so gripping. Get your tickets to Blue right here at McCall Hall. You will not be disappointed in this show whatsoever. Oh my gosh, I'm geeking out. I really am. Okay, let me just say this, because I stayed for after for the Q&A with Tazewell Thompson, who is the writer and the director of this show, a Black man who really put his lived experience of growing up, in a convent with nuns, and just telling us his part of the story and why he chose certain characters to really represent different facets of his own life in this exact in this opera. But I gotta say this, we know that opera is really, it's predominantly a white space, if we're being honest, right? Even the audience, it was clear, white people go to operas. It's not like the thing that, everybody's talking about on the stoops, in our community, necessarily like, oh man, did you go check that out? That's not really the thing. So what I appreciated so much about the gripping nature of this story was the fact that it was being told in white spaces. And literally there was so many people that stayed after the end to listen to this Q&A because their questions, one man said, man, what can we do? And Tazewell's response was, it's about how you raise your children. These next generations need to understand love and empathy, that humanity, that peace we always talk about here. And just for this story to be in there in these predominantly white spaces, I really applaud Tazewell for not taking a light foot with this. He was heavy on some of the content around how Black people feel in this country and have always felt since its inception. So I just appreciated the gripping nature of that.
All right, good stuff. That's Blue. Me and Besa are actually going on the 9th. So we're going to go and check it out on March 9th. So we'll report back to you. Blue playing right now at McCall Hall. And the Seattle Opera. You can go to McCall Hall or Seattle Opera to their website for tickets all the way through March 12th. Man, we're gonna get out of here, but tomorrow, it's all about basketball. And it's a big issue they're having out there at Rainier Beach High School. As far as the basketball teams, the seedings of it, I see Chuck's over there shaking his head. Man, Rainier Beach, they won their game against O'Day, but then they're going into the state championships. They got seeded a bit lower. We've got John Arnold coming. John Arnold is a data scientist, man. John Arnold from Vertical Life is going to be talking. He's going to go through all the actual numbers and data, and they're saying it's a big problem over there at the WIAA. One around this, but overall just diversity. And you got to don't worry, because I got somebody for you for tomorrow, because I was telling you have a student athlete there. Then also our other guest is Yusuf Abdi Kadir, a student athlete out there at Rainier Beach High School. So he's going to be coming in. And then after the playoffs are over, we're going to have Coach Bethia in here as well talking. But yeah, they are not happy at Rainier Beach at all with the outcome of this seeding, this drawing of straws on human beings.
Oh my God.
That's going on out there. So I know that this is something that is kind of near and dear to you with your son playing high school sports.
No, absolutely it is. And I love that we're going to have somebody talking about this, because it's something that parents experience all the time, particularly with regard to championship tournaments. So I just want to say a huge shout out to everybody out there that puts their time and grit into these young people for their athletic ability. I mean, there's so many different people. So I just got to say, I'm going to be tuning in for sure. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll be here.
No, I mean like listening in, because I know you'll
yeah.
be probably interviewed. But my thing is I probably have some questions for afterwards.
I brought these people for you.
Oh, there we go.
This is what I'm saying.
Yay.
They're here for you. Hey, we're going overtime, but this brings back the good old days of remember the 2-hour morning update show?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it was. We talk about everything we ever wanted to talk about. A 2-hour show. But we're gonna get out of here, Trey Holiday. Thank you for staying at overtime with me.
Always.
Any last words before we go?
See yourself as a part of the solution. I'm so inspired by our guests here today. And every day on the Morning Update show, DeVitta Briscoe doing her thing with gun violence. We have the property princess, Gusti Clark, doing her thing, and also Chuck doing his thing. Honestly, everybody does what they can. And I just hope you guys are inspired and encouraged to do the same.
All right, good stuff. It's a good feeling to be back here in the Black Media Matters studio. It's no place like home. It's good to be back here next to you again, Trey Holiday. And yeah, we're looking for a very exciting week here. As you can tell, it's lots of energy on the set. It's a good vibe in here. I see DeVitta's still here because she's feeling the good energy in here. You know what I'm saying? But man, as usual, we're gonna leave you with a whole lot of hope from Shayna Shepherd. And on that note, go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
What
do I see through a lens of fear? 1,000 little steps to go. What do I fear after all these years? Lord knows I don't even know. I've been running on the edge of a sundial, sleeping in the shadow. I've been begging you to see me, then hiding beyond the unreachable. Looking out left on a right-hand turn, just trying to make a deal. Lazy shoes and love is a love that's earned. That's the kind of food that heals. I've been searching for the end of an era, waiting to be ready. The world is bigger than a moment. Be steady, that's how you can feel it's real. But I feel naked in my new clothes, 'cause I got you.